Welcome back to the Overwatch Open, ladies and gentlemen. We have just concluded map number 1 between Anox and Reunited. A little bit of an upset, but I'm sure you're going to be very pleased, Dan, that Anox were able to shade that, and they're now 1-0 up in this series.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Cypher getting put in that position where, I mean, again, like his Quake career, he thrives in super fast, chaotic situations where there's a lot of pressure, you got to hit those shots, and we saw that he did a lot of work there. It's funny for me actually seeing Cooler playing support, but hey, it worked out pretty well for them. I mean, it was very, very close. I mean, for you, how much of an upset is this really something that Reunited will be worried about?
Reunited, I think the map choice kind of reflects this, because Reunited traditionally are stronger on payload maps than they are at King of the Hill. And the third map that we have in our map pool, I believe, is Nepal. So my prediction was that if Reunited won map 1, Anox would pick Nepal to try and break up the rhythm a little bit. Reunited are going to be slightly concerned that they've lost a payload map now. They're still stronger on payload. They're going to go to Hollywood anyway. But Anox are now going into this with the belief that they can beat Reunited at Reunited's own game. It's testing waters.
That's awesome. I mean, I really want to see actually as you said, the third map Nepal, because that kind of map, the individual skill, the kinds of plays and strategy we might see from.
You just want Cypher to all kill.
Exactly. That's what I want to see, because I think these guys, again, as you say, on the payload, there's not as they can't get the most out of certain aspects of their skill.
Sure.
So I want to see how that plays against a team like Reunited. It could be really fun.
Well, also bear in mind that when we're in a position where the teamwork aspect is actually more important, especially with heroes like Zenyatta coming back into the fore, you do have to hit some pretty sweet timings with multiple skills as well as multiple ultimates to be able to take those down. And that's something that Reunited traditionally are just really strong at. So Anox have gone ahead and said, well, we didn't beat you by much, but hey guys, we did beat you.
That's so cool. And moving into Hollywood, again, the single hero limit. We're not going to see 6 Winstons jumping over the roof on the first point.
No, I'm afraid not. Also, I believe the days of Mercy Farah flying over the right-hand side of that wall are also over. The teams are about to begin. Let's take a look at what kind of compositions we've got. So Anox at the moment defending from Reunited. Sharix once again on Reinhardt. We've got Rubicon on Zenyatta, Cypher on Genji. Heck yeah. Kenzie once again on McCree. Cooler playing support again on Lucio. And Anak this time choosing to go for Zarya.
Yeah, we got the speed boost coming in right now to get these players Reunited in position on the offense, and so far again a bit chaotic, but just like there is some pushing, and Zenyatta making some ground take, getting those discords down, and the damage has been done. Reunited have themselves on the payload almost immediately.
And a lot of that was actually down to the combination of Unfixed and Kib. So on that last map, you saw that the choice of Reaper, then played by Kib, didn't actually do too much on Route 66, and Sharek managed to shade it with Zarya with a lot more sustain. This time around, coming straight out of the gate, what we need to do is get all that damage done and get it done very, very quickly. So with Unfixed and Kib both flanking, it meant that Anox had to look in multiple directions.
You're such a scholar, John. Scholar of Overwatch.
It's just not a gentleman. I'm working on that one. Don't worry. Eventually I'll get there. And now this is all about verticality. So Reunited want to make sure that anyone who's on top for Anox actually gets taken down as quickly as possible. That's why you see Kib coming up the side of the building. He or she who has that high ground vision, who is able to shoot down, will be able to get the advantage in a fight, even if the payload is moving on the ground. And you want that for the team wipes.
Yeah, no, right now we can see Lucio with Reinhardt being able to get that payload moved, as the rest of Anox are kind of dealing with DPS at the back, and they are slowly cutting them off, but the ground has been gained by Reunited. But has it been enough? Is this something that Reunited can actually work with, or Anox going to be able to push this back? Because again, they're a team of highly individually skilled players, so this kind of open terrain is going to give them a lot to work with, especially Cypher on that Genji, able to maneuver himself across all these saloons, as we see once again Reinhardt getting back onto the payload here, and there it is. Cypher going for the flank, picking off these players, and that is a really good news right now for Anox.
Yep, very, very important. Kib is the guy who's constantly trying to get up on the roof and to try and persuade Anox to fight on the ground. Cypher had one job, kill the guy who's harassing the guys on the high ground. He's done exactly that. It's made it very difficult for Reunited to engage, and it means that Anox are free to pick and choose individual team members to take out.
So how would you like Reunited to try to break this? Do you think there's an easy solution, easy answer, or do you just have to win some of those individual battles?
So if Unfixed, for example, is able to teleport onto the high ground and actually use his Death Blossom and try and clear out a couple of players, that would be great. I'm a little bit surprised, given how strong D.Va is in the current meta, that no one's trying to fly up to the high ground and take it with defensive Matrix. We've seen that in previous metas, but I guess both teams have decided that's not something worth pursuing here. I'd be interested to see how well or not well it works.
And we saw the attempt there from Reunited to try to break this. They took everyone along the side there with the speed boost of Lucio. But again, we do get Unfixed getting in there with that Reaper. But the damage was not really good enough. Anox, again, they sort of read the play and they kind of set up around it. You saw Cypher, again, getting in the back, finding the timing very perfectly. And once again, it's just too much to handle.
This is what happens when Kib isn't up above. You can see Kib constantly moving upstairs, looking for openings. Well, guess what? Kib was dead there. That gave Cypher full control of the building. He came round back. And, okay, they got 4 kills, but Cypher contributed to 3 of them there. And it's so difficult to stop when you're not contesting the high ground as well.
This is a great play coming in as well from Anox. They got the Reinhardt up top. They can, of course, get so much cover for the McCrees, for the High Noons, just causing a lot of problems here. They can also find a good timing to drop as well, and they might not want to do that. Nice flick there from Kenzie, and that's a very, very important shot, and he's doing more damage there from up top. Big problems here, experienced by Reunited, but they are moving the payload. It is happening right now, but is it happening quickly enough? Another Death Blossom coming in, and looks like Cypher's still alive with the ultimate pop there. Reinhardt out alone in the cold with no one to support him.
Exactly right. And unfortunately, the lights have just been switched off as well. This is the other thing that Reunited could do. You can see that Kib isn't exactly winning the verticality battle because he's not just fighting Cypher. You had Reinhardt up there and loads of other heroes up top, right? So if they can sneak the payload through on the bottom long enough that it actually opens the next checkpoint, that's going to force Anox back into the building, and all of a sudden, their big, massive advantage in the air, that's been negated. But they managed to collapse. They managed to hold it on the point. Reunited have it all to do once again.
Yeah, we can see this setup. They're just going to rinse and repeat. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And now we have a new approach from Reunited. They're finally going to go for the take up top here along this highway. But again, we've got McCree buying time with the High Noon. Doesn't have to get the kills with it. He's just wasting a lot of time. And that's time that we can see Winston getting in there to try to break up the offense before they can actually set up their play to attack. And you can see that's very important right now because Anox are able to capitalize on this play. And again, falls back down to chaos, but they've broken up Reunited enough. They should be able to hold this.
And yet this isn't 100% clear which way it's going to go because both teams have kind of dropped down and it's a little bit chaotic. I think with Cruz going down, it should be okay for Anox at this point. And when they actually drop down, they have to be confident that they win the fight. You don't want to get into a situation where it's just 2 teams fighting out in equal turns on the ground. You don't want to give up that advantage. So far, there's 1 minute and 40 seconds left remaining for Reunited to try and take this. There's Valutaja moving up top. We can see Reaper going up as well. Everybody is contesting the high ground. That has been king here. This is almost like a textbook example of how we need to be playing the second point, and Anox are doing phenomenally well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, we're seeing some of the key shots coming in with the individual skills so high on that team, and once again the upper ground trying to be broken, and it looks way more successful this time.
That might actually be a nail in a coffin. We'll see if Reunited can do this, but starting with Valutaja taking out Cypher with High Noon, and then managing to flash in Fan Sharix as well. This is as good a shot as Reunited have had all point long for them to push the payload through. If they don't do it now, they might get full held.
Yeah, that was a really nice clear, and they definitely needed that. And again, they did it against the setup was working so well, but in comes Cypher to ruin your day. Slicing and a dicing, making some fresh sashimi right there, and Anox are going to be holding this. The payload's so close.
I'll have that rare, please. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Cypher, yeah, managed to get back into the fight quite quickly, but you saw how much they were in trouble without him there, because at the start of that previous engagement, Cypher was the first person to go down. All of a sudden, Anox were looking a little bit shaky. He comes back, has his ultimate available, everything's fine again. Reunited now. I think this might end up being the last push. I don't feel like they're going to have enough time to regroup. They're going to have to take this to overtime and win it now. The good news is, it looks like they're doing it.
Yeah, Unfix getting in there with that Reaper play, just able to get all the perfect engagements as his team distracts the defense of Anox there, and they will make the payload onto that checkpoint to get through the big door, but there's still one last stretch to go.
this is what Unfixed wanted to have done on the previous map as well as on this map so far. He hasn't really been in a position where Reunited have comfortably taken the high ground. He patiently waits out his ultimate and then flies in and gets 3 or 4 kills. This is the first big opportunity where Unfixed has been able to do that. This is where he's in his element. The question is, can this actually become consistent? Because he's tried to do this 3 or 4 times so far, and it's only worked the last time.
All right, well, the pressure is definitely on, and we have the Reinhardt just standing there, and all the damage is being soaked up by the shield. The shield will not last forever. That said, this will be the time to move in right now as they find their way onto the flank. There goes Unfixed. Can he find some good engagements? Not quite perfect there. We get a bit of a dispersion of Anox as the Reaper drops in of Unfixed, but still alive, still doing damage, finding some better engagements. Although there goes the flashbang and the finish coming in as well. So no more Reaper to worry about as Anox clean up the offensive effort, and Reunited are left in a state of dismay.
Exactly. A little bit unfortunate for Unfixed there. He more or less, I can almost imagine what happened in the team comms where they said, they're on top of the payload, okay, then I'm going to jump down. Oh, they're actually still behind the payload. Moves up, good positioning just in front of a health pack to soak up the damage and kill off Anox, but not quite able to get the follow-up. We have another engagement coming in. Cypher actually trying to disrupt Reunited before they're able to get their act together, managing to get a couple of kills on the board, but they're going Reunited's way right now, forcing the Transcendence out of Rubicon to try and survive. Kip does get taken down there, so they are spared basically the non-mercy, if you like, of the ultimate there, and moving ever closer to the rather oversized VIP parking lot.
And Unfixed, he's got that Death Blossom coming in, but he will be taken down, I think, just before he can really get it to good use. And Anox is so close, but they're managing to actually push it back once again. And they had some good efforts just previous to this, where they were trying to preempt the offense and not allow Reunited to set up perfectly. And they did some damage, but Reunited were doing a very good job, actually. And again, we have the High Noon trying to buy time, buy space for Anox, but in comes the Genji, the ultimate doing so much damage. Can they hold, though?
No ultimate available for Unfixed. He does Wraith Form in, but then you have to ask yourself the question, so what? They can buy some time, but they are never going to be 6 people on the point together. Winghaven goes down as well, and unfortunately, that car is going to be permanently badly parked, as Anox, I think here, will be able to hold Reunited. 70.48 meters, the distance they need to complete, and Reunited looking shaky.
Yeah, just dribs and drabs there at the end, and well, I'm rather impressed by Anox.
Yep, they've been doing very, very well. They're not quite as consistent as I would say, oh my goodness, these guys can beat any team in the world every day of the week. But Cypher does seem to have a knack of pulling it out when it matters, basically, because he'll die 1 or 2 times very early on in an engagement, and just when you think all hope is lost, he'll come in, get a quad kill, and pick up the team.
Absolutely, and I really love the dynamic that we saw. Again, it's always a question of problem solving there. As you said, you know, we saw that kind of textbook play in Hollywood there on top of the saloons, trying to hold it down. And perhaps maybe Reunited could feel like they should have done a lot better in that phase, because it felt like they tried so many things before they finally figured out, okay, we need to just bring the fight to them up top and just remove them from that defensive position instead of just allowing ourselves to kind of play into what they're essentially saying is this is our optimal setup.
We definitely need to see a bit more of that initiative taken from Reunited. I felt like they got their act together towards the end of the second point. But unfortunately, there was a situation where Cypher just kind of woke up. And actually, the rest of the team, let's not just talk about Cypher. I thought Sharek did a very good job sort of keeping hold from above. Anak, a little bit of unsung hero there, because quite often Winston jumps in and dies first, but ultimately that disruption was really good. And the way they held that high ground bought them a lot of time to think. But this isn't pure stopwatch. We have got 70.48 as a distance to beat here, so it won't matter as long as they're able to do it, even if it's slower.
I love the distances. Now
Will they go the distance, Dan?
I had to pause. I was like, I've set myself up.
Don't do it!
Do I do this? You did it for me, so...
It's alright, I've broken the seal. We can go punch crazy now, that's how it works. Alright, let's go.
It's time indeed to get in there, and it was a very fast take for Reunited through onto this point. Let's see if they can defend it. We have Anox moving in, and so far so good actually, as a bunch of kills are picked up and they're getting quite some ground here. It's going to take some good work from the Reaper, but without too much distraction to work with, he's not going to find himself in any ideal engagements. And look at this, just absolutely face stomping them at the moment. Reunited will lose that first point just as quickly. as Anox did.
And again, this comes down to personal preference in team composition. There'll be people there that are like, oh my god, it's so obvious this comp was wrong. But at the end of the day, with Unfixed and Kib both on DPS, on Reaper and Genji, Reunited are either going to win points very quickly, or they're going to lose them very quickly, right? They're squishy, but they're very high damage output. Sharik, again, I'm looking out for Zarya and how well Zarya is simply able to perform as a character. Anak as well is going to be able to help with the disruption, but it's really the shields here that I think will make or break Anox's push.
And that's going to be quite interesting to see that dynamic now, as we see that already Reunited thinking about that high ground just as Anox were. But will Anox be able to break it more quickly? Obviously, they know what they're up against. They know how to break it. And Cypher has the big sword, and he will be slashing away, although not able to find any amazing engagements. And, oh, he will find Lucio out of the sky like a clay pigeon. And he's not done just yet. There's the second one. Catching McCree with a nice deflection as well. So Cypher still doing work.
I think actually, let me just take a look at the ultimate percentage. Yes, he actually caught Balutaja with the Deadeye bullet and reflected it back in his face. So Balutaja starts from 0 again. Whoopsie daisy. Reunited at the moment are definitely showing a lot of heart, but sadly they're not stopping this push.
Losing composure, perhaps.
Yes, I think so, and Anox now have full control of the high ground. So this is where all the damage in the world won't help you unless you can get up there. Fortunately, of course, Kib can jump, but Unfix needs to find a safe place to teleport, and Cypher from up above is just able to pick and choose his targets.
And right now they're actually pushing onto those choke points like Reunited. I mean, it's their door, but Anox have the key at the moment, although they are breaking out. And once again, we're seeing how much that Genji ultimate can do. And this is so important. As you said, being able to retake that high ground. Anox were trying to sit on it and just block Reunited away out of those choke points, but Reunited will retake it.
So at some point, Anox have to come down to escort the payload the last couple of meters, and coincidentally or not, it was at that very point where Reunited went, we're entering desperation mode. Unfix, I think, started his ultimate on Reaper before he even got through the door, and he was like, right, we just need to get as much damage done as possible, and conveniently Unfix and Kib combined got 3 kills between them. Graviton Surge to start this one out though, and oh no, Cypher! We have some slicing, and with Graviton Surge, that's extremely powerful. He does a lot of damage, but doesn't actually get the final blow off on anyone, and Reunited are now on the comeback.
Yeah, that was a pretty nicely placed Graviton Surge, but looks like it's not going to matter too much here, as we will have Reunited able to just reclaim the position. Now,
Sharik's going to be wondering what he had to do better there, because that was a really good Graviton Surge. He set up Cypher really well, and then Cypher actually started slicing into the group of players as well. He just didn't quite get the final blow on anyone. So I think Anox there will be going, hang on a second, we actually did that quite well. How did we lose that team fight?
Oh yeah, it's a little bit too slow on the ultimate pop, unfortunately, but we have another contest back onto the payload coming in as Anox trying to make their way.
Trying to kill the cactus by the looks of things.
Seems like we have some flowers. We have some Death Blossoms there, as once again Unfix will make his way back in, and not catching, I don't think, too many players there. It is quite chaotic, but the payload is moving as Cypher's standing large and in charge on top of that payload before deciding it is time once again to go and find some victims.
So that I guess was an interesting contrast in styles, because when Reunited were pushing, they were constantly struggling for control of the high ground. And when Anox were pushing, they had control of the high ground when they captured the point, but Reunited were actually able to storm through on the ground, waiting for the last couple of meters to do so. So an interesting contrast in styles. We're into the final section of the map, though. It is the last dogleg, and at 70.48, you will be able to see the golden glow of the terribly parked car as the goal for Anox to take.
Well, there's lots of time to do it, and we have all the ultimates being popped there. Lucio's sound barrier will go down, and it's looking pretty good, actually, for Anox. Look at Kenzie just getting in there with McCree. Very nicely placed flashbang there, rendering Reinhardt useless, as Kenzie has full reign with McCree here. Wow. Left clicking for days, and everyone just regrouping inside a nice, cozy little barrier along for the home stretch.
Guys, there's only one parking space. You can't possibly draw it that badly. Which governmental organization came out and did that? Right, we have Kib coming out with a defensive, actually, Dragon Blade, trying his best to kick a couple of people into next week. Unable to do that at the moment, though. Kenzie coming back, getting a couple of kills. It's beginning to look like that Anox have the belief and have the way to do this. Don't forget, this push can fail. They'd still have 3.5 minutes, but they're able to do it. Reunited are going down down 2-0 to Team Anox. Who predicted that?
You what, mate? You what?
You guys might have predicted that. Go Quake, woo!
Well, yeah, I'm always happy to see my fellow Quakers do well. And got to say, I was quite surprised because because I've actually played some Overwatch with these guys in the past, and one thing that I have noticed with some of the teams from CIS is that, some of the things I've heard actually, is that communication tends to be an issue. But these guys look pretty together, and that's good to see.
Yeah, and that play of the game, of course, was from Unfix, coming out when Reunited retook the ground, and they were able to catch the team out as Anox all fell from the high ground, and as a result, they were able to win that battle. But sadly, not the war. So Reunited out of the open, at least for this week.
Gentlemen, I'm back. And I just have to say, right, can we just address some MVPs throughout that series? Because genuinely, our producers are sitting there going, Cypher is so good at Genji. Every time, so basically, every time we cut to, they were like, they have 2 feeds running, right? They're like, okay, one person's watching one team, one person's watching the other. Every time they cut to that one feed, it was just Cypher because the guy was like, he's doing everything. Like, I've got no one else to watch. Cypher was looking great. And then, of course, I feel like we have to highlight that McCree work from Valutaja on the other side of things. Anyone else stood out to you?
Well, I'm biased. We all know I'm biased.
Yeah.
Being,
you called them a
from the Quake
Quaker.
world. So, yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, we saw it as well. Every time you cut to Cypher, he's doing a lot of work. But that's the thing, right? He's the Genji. This is a high level of play. He's the guy that has to do that.
So a couple of things to call out in terms of maybe the players we don't necessarily see as much.
Sure.
Sometimes I syllables, by the way, see as much. Sharik did a very good job of shielding a lot of his teammates. Right. Why is that important? It's important because his teammates keep Reunited occupied so that Cypher can actually go in and do his thing. We also have a similar position on the other team where Valutaja did a fantastic job of staying behind Winghaven, who I feel was a little bit underappreciated, but he was always in front of Valutaja, allowing him to get those dead eyes out in really good, timely fashion and just clearing the road.
Look at that. Good guy, Jurasar, just basically saying, okay, guy, support's doing something too, guys. Don't get distracted by the flashy Genjis. It is easy to get sidetracked by these incredible kind of individual plays you saw, reflecting dead eyes. You saw it all. It was a game to kind of a spectacle to behold, and I think the big point we have to make here is that we just saw the number 3 rated team in the world fall to number 17. Like, I mean, that was, and it was rather convincing as well, right? Like, I assume you weren't expecting results quite so convincing.
Well, I guess the first map was quite close, and I thought, okay, maybe it could have gone either way. But I will admit that the second map was a little bit like, oh, the gap's a bit bigger than I thought it might be. So that was really, really nicely played by Anox.
Of course, we have got another game to come. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. But I feel like we just want to take a little longer to embrace this one. I want to take the opportunity to talk about this Zenyatta shift. Ever since that patch, we've been seeing him crop up a whole lot. And Mercy disappears off the face of the planet. Now,
who needs her?
Mercy did receive some changes as well, John. So it's not like, Zenyatta's suddenly, the go-to pick. Can we talk through that?
Well, so you have a situation now where Zenyatta, to be perfectly honest, was always a great multi-support hero. The best example of Zenyatta versus Mercy would be, let's take Mercy staff. You damage amp a team player, whether it's 30 or 50%, depending on the patch. Yeah, even if it goes up, even if it's reduced, you're still targeting one player. Discord Orb allows all 6 of your teammates to do enhanced damage to a particular target member of the team. So there was always that level of utility there for Zenyatta, but he was in a position, especially for a long time against Widowmaker, as I'm sure you know, where if I'm just getting one-shotted every time I peek my head around a corner, I'm not interested. Zenyatta does need that line of sight. Mercy can sit behind a wall and res as and when. Now, the tables have changed. Zenyatta up to 200 hit points overall. Mercy, again, still very good, and you see Mercy on certain points, but Zenyatta suddenly has gone, well, your utility never disappeared. We're now going to start using you with more hit points.
I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm not necessarily upset that we've gone away from that res culture. This constant res spam.
Absolutely.
We're seeing something different already.
And the thing with Zenyatta is always fun for me as well, is that the hitboxes on his projectiles are so huge. And it just, again, it just means that he can always be doing so much damage because they do quite a lot of damage. And because they're so huge, it's much easier to get headshots. If you've got, there's players coming in trying to flank with the additional health that he has and also with some good communication, you're going to be able to, throw the Discord Orb, get a lot of damage, maybe you can get the kill in lots of spots where Mercy would be pretty helpless. And so, yeah, I'm definitely all for it. And especially at the high level, when you have players who have very good mechanics, then you're going to see much higher percentage of shots hit as well with a player like Zenyatta. So you can just get more damage out there, which is always good.
Well, it's going to be constantly shifting and changing. Did you have something to add, John?
I think that one of the things I'm really interested in looking at over the next week, which will either make me look like a genius or a complete fool, we'll find out.
I walk that line every day.
is whether or not we start seeing Ana on some of the earlier points. Some teams have been experimenting, basically on payload maps especially, where big individual team fights are so important. In a meta with no mercy, if you team wipe, it's huge. There's no instant res. And Ana's ultimate boost your own team. Yeah, it has the potential to be OP, but it's most OP on first points where defending teams have to walk back a long way, right? And because Ana's really immobile, it means attacking teams, it takes a long time to actually charge up that ultimate because you're healing your teammates more than you're damaging the enemy. So if teams can find a way to build Ana's ultimate quickly on a first point on a map like Route 66, for example, you might start to see a lot of offensive Anas with the hopes of actually nailing the ultimate and forcing a team wipe and just pushing the payload through half the map for free.
I mean, that was the problem initially with Mercy, wasn't it? Just how quickly she could get that resurrect. I mean, you just channel out a damage boost on a 76, and all of a sudden you've got a resurrect ready for the first point.
You have double reses in a single team fight sometimes.
Madness, absolute madness, and we are moving away from that. We'll be talking more about this and more in just a moment. We are going to be taking a break, though. We bring you our final game from the European region before we then venture into the North America region. We actually get to see some big games in North America. I know I'm seeing people in chat already going, where's Envy, when's C9, when's TSM? You will see these names and you'll see more of them.
Not where's Seagull.
Not where's Seagull. I'm sure he's probably still streaming. Either way, though, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we have Misfits going up against SG1. It's going to be a spectacle, and we'll see you in a sec.